Hello, this video is a continuation of a video describing the object properties and the simulation of CoppeliaSim or BREP. And in this video I will show you actually how to change or where to locate these properties and how to modify them. Okay, so first let's study what we have here, what I have prepared for you here. We have a scene with 8 objects. They have different dynamic properties. We'll see them. And you can see that one of them is on top of the other one. We can see easily that if we change the view here, and you can see that in this top view, we can see that the colored objects are on top of the gray ones. Okay, so if we return to this view, okay, so as you can see in our example, we have different objects here in the scene. And we can first change the name of the objects by modify them. For instance, if we double click on the text of the object and we modified that, then we modify the name of the object. This is important, particularly when we will start using the coding or the scripting part of the software. Okay, and also each of the objects has always an icon here. We will see that on a different video. The icon type, but if we double click here on this icon, what we can see is the send object properties. It's a dialog in which we can modify the properties of the selected object. So right now we have this object selected, and as you can see here we have 2 different tabs, one related with the shape and the other one related with the common properties. Let's start with the common properties first. So if we go here, we have a set of properties here that we can select and modify. The first ones are related with the camera visibility layers. As I explained before, the software allows to select individually on each object where you want to be visible. And by default, if you access to this dialog here right on the left side, you will see the visibility layers that are actually active here. By default, the first 8 layers are active. So indeed, all these objects have the first layer. As you can see here, this is the first layer, the second one, and this is the 8th one, this is the 9th one, and so on. Okay, so all layers here that are active, if this is active and this is active, then the object will be visible. So if this activates that one, the object is not visible anymore. Okay, indeed we don't see it here. Okay, and it gets the gray color here, but so it's still on the scene, but we can see it. So if we want to see the object again, we have to activate that. And if we deactivate this global check, then all layers that have this layer active will be hidden. So as you can see, all of them are hidden. Okay, and what we can do, for instance, is if we select or reactive the second layer for this object and we deactivate the first global layer, only this object is active. Okay, so as I said, by default, this is the standard behavior to see, let's say, the NAS objects, and we can invert and see what's behind the simulation. And usually here we will select the object, or we will view the objects that are affecting usually to the dynamic simulation. Okay, so this corresponds to the visibility layers, and also here we have in the common tag, we have the special properties of an object. Particularly we have the collidable, the measurable, detectable, and renderable. These objects can be set individually for each object, so we can set them, or we should set them only if we are going to use the object for that purpose. For instance, if we want, imagine that this object is a wall or something, we want to be the object detected by a proximity sensor, then we should check this property of this object. And also, if we want that object to be considered as part of the motion planning algorithms to generate a collision-free path, then we should activate that property, and if we want to see this object with a vision sensor, then we should activate this property here too. Okay, so I'm just simply undoing the changes. Okay, so now let's move to the shape properties. First thing is, here we can modify the color of an object by modifying the ambient component. So we can, as you can see, we can modify the color of an object. Okay, so let's go back. And also, let's say I select this object here, and now I want to modify it or add a texture. So we can load an existing texture. Here, this is a garage concrete texture. So if I modify it, it should appear in here. There must be an option in which is static texture. Here it is. It's modified. Okay. So this affects to the appearance, but the most important properties we can select is the when we enter in this dynamic properties dialog. So if we click here, then we have this dialog here, which is very important for us to control how the simulation works. So as I said before, objects in this simulator could be respondable or could be dynamic, or could be non-respondable or static. So this depends if we select these options here, will be respondable or non-respondable, dynamic or static in this case. Okay. In the case of being dynamic, then this object will have additional properties like the mass, the inertial, the moment, the mass, and so on. Okay, so these things we will see them later in, for advanced features. Okay, so let's see exactly in this scene that I have prepared here for you what we have. So let's start with this object. This is a non-respondable and static object. So this means that it won't move. And this is also non-respondable static object, so they won't move at all. Okay, this one here is respondable, means that if someone collides, it will generate a reaction force, but only if the other object is also respondable. But it's static, so it won't move too either. So also this one is respondable and is static, so it won't move. And this one here is dynamic, so it will fall down because it will be affected by the gravity, but it's non-respondable, which means that even though this object here below is respondable, even though this object is respondable, when both of them collide, the green object will pass through the gray one and indeed will fall down to the minus infinity. Okay, and these two objects here, this one is respondable and dynamic, this one is respondable and dynamic, and they will the red one will fall on top of the other one. Okay, so let's run the simulation here to see how it works. Let's just first move this thing here. And as you can see, these two objects are static, so they haven't moved. This one has fallen down, but because it's reactive, it's respondable, they collide each other, so they stay there. But the green object has disappeared. Let's do it again, and slightly slowly, so you can see it. Okay? So the green object passes through the other one. Indeed, this object here right now is respondable and is static. But if we modify this and we set that to non-respondable, what happens is that this object is affected by gravity, but because it's non-respondable, what it will happen is that the floor is also a reactive object, so it won't react against the floor, so this object will fall down too. As you can see, both objects have fallen down. Okay, so this is a brief summary about the object properties in VREP or CoppeliaSim. Thank you very much.